Having a look at the budget countdown, where of course in a couple of hours it's going to be the vote on account. In all intents and purposes, it will serve as an indication of the broader minutiae as well as the vision statement that we have come to expect in the budget, regardless of the time which is taking place, of course, which is right before a general election set in 2 months' time. You're watching live visuals on the right side of your screens. It's a slightly desultory, rainy morning where the various ministers are arriving in their offices, going through the motions, of course, of showing up in Parliament, which starts at 11 o'clock to kick off the budget. There you have the Union Finance Minister presenting the last budget of this tenure. She would obviously hope that her party government and her office are back in a few weeks' time. Joining us this morning, Yash Gupta, he's the Director General of the Indian Auto LPG Coalition. Pankaj Mittal is with us. I can see Mitali joining us also this morning. I'll introduce the other guests as they come and join in on this conversation. Yashi, very good morning to you. I know the devil is in the detail and a lot of minutiae coming our way. What are you hoping actually happens, sir?
Glad to be here. Good morning. In 2006, I happened to meet Senator John McCain during his speech in Phoenix, Arizona. And after I got down on the stage, I had a 2-minute interaction with him, and he quoted one thing. He said, for the growth of any nation, it's important to have a grand vision. And that's, even though this is just going to be a vote on account, but it is imperative that that the vision continue, that we work towards the same vision. Mr. Modi's government has had a vision for the last 9 years, and I really hope this continues in this term as well. And as we go into this discussion during the panel, my takes would be that I would like more to see more and more on renewable energy and how can we get India to energy security.
Okay. Energy security, renewable energy. We had a long conversation on this just through the course of last evening. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, $260 billion is what India spends importing oil and gas. That's about 2 lakh crores, the largest chunk of the spending of the exchequer. Imagine if the day would come, and we've been dreaming of this day, but it is potentially possible. You can do it through ethanol, you can convert to electric, you can bring in the hydrogen. It is possible to do now. Potentially so much so that one day in the near future, India could be exporting solar energy. Our solar capacity has doubled, in fact tripled in the last 2-3 years. It's going to double again in the next couple of years. Phenomenal amount, maybe 70-75 gigawatts of solar capacity coming our way. So things are changing, hopefully changing for the better. And just like we were discussing yesterday, the budget itself is about minutiae, less so than it was 20 years ago, where a single percentage point on the pen of the finance minister made and ruined businesses. But in the minutiae, what's the grand vision? Let's pick that up. Mitali is still joining us on the broadcast. I can see Gautam Mukherjee with us this morning as well. Good morning to both of you. Mitali, let's kick this off. What are we hoping happens? Are we just hoping sort of a banal statement that makes do for the next couple of months, or like most people, are you suspecting this is going to be a full-fledged budget in all but name?
Morning, Rishabh. Greetings on this very foggy and interesting morning. No, I don't think that this is going to be a full-fledged budget. I actually differ with a lot of expectations on that, but I do think that there are going to be some significant announcements for the common voter. And I particularly think that 3 things are going to get highlighted today. The first one, I think, no doubt that Nari Shakti is going to be one of the major themes of this budget, because we have seen it with Republic Day. We have seen it yesterday, actually, when Minister Smriti Irani hosted an event and all of us were there, to have this industry pledge to increase women's participation in the workforce. And honestly, for someone like me, who spent her whole career advocating for gender equality, it was like a, aha moment. And the third thing, which I think is going to be very important, is going to be small industries and MSME. Because the small industry and MSME is the beating heart of the economy, and they are the ones who are also mattering from a political standpoint, from a voting standpoint. So I really think that's going to be a major focus.
Okay.
Apart from that, infrastructure, as always.
All right, but other than the minutiae, which is about encouragement and percentages schemes, even in what has, and I agree with you on the tenor, the Prime Minister has defined these new 4 classes, the 4 stars of India. Let's just take this, okay, sorry for the disturbance. Let me quickly get Gautam Mukherjee into this. Gautam Mukherjee, what are you suspecting this to be a sort of a hold fast sort of logic, or are you expecting pretty much what would a normal budget would conclude ahead of a general election?
I think with the present political calculations, which is, indicating a third term, it will be a bold budget. It won't go all the way to a full-fledged budget, but it will indicate things and areas that are normally not done in a vote on account interim budget. So yes, it's going to be quite forceful. I agree with Mitali that Nari Shakti is going to be a great emphasis. I look at it not just in gender equality terms, but in economic terms. If a large proportion of the female workforce were to be inducted in government, private sector, enterprise, various education, health, defense, you're talking about an increase of 1% to 1.5% in the GDP by harnessing this resource.
Okay, but how is the intervention to be done? Because we've seen the intervention happening in the Jan Dhan accounts, in the Mudra loans. We've seen the welfare intervention happening at the house level with the toilets and the LPG. But at the employment or the industrial training level, what is the intervention that a budget can possibly do?
See, the two obvious thoughts are reservations, which I'm not in favor of, or opportunity, where women are preferred, which is a better way to do this. And every encouragement, if you're going to say women is preferred, then most of them will apply and most of them will be selected.
Okay.
So this is something that the private sector, as well as all branches of government, including the NGOs, the support services, the various defense, for example, you always have women in the medical corps. Now they're also
serving in the armed forces.
In the troops and so on.
And in frontline operations, you had the first women appointed to Siachen, now leading in leading officer roles. So that, of course, is in the defense sector, but we're talking about a larger gambit, okay? And a larger gambit means increasing female participation in the workforce, okay?
The other thing, Rishabh, is to boost the real estate sector like mad. I mean, you've got a current total of 120 billion. The real estate associations are saying that this can be ramped up to 1 trillion by 2030 in stages, of course.
Yeah, well,
I have never seen a sector apart from real estate that absorbs as many skilled and unskilled personnel.
So that's, of course, Gautam Mukherjee is referring to real estate construction and infrastructure. Also covers that broad swath. Let me quickly get Pankaj Mittal into this conversation. Are you here with us? Okay.
Pankaj Agrawal.
Yeah, Mr. Mittal, I don't think is here with us. We've lost him. So Pankaj Agrawal ji is with us for sure. Pankaj ji, very good morning. For introduction to our guest joining us, Pankaj ji is Chief Operating Officer of Bikaner Wala Foods. Pankaj ji, in the minutiae of the budget, because a lot of the policies and the schemes and the larger vision and planning is pretty much announced through the course of the year by the ministries themselves. What is the budget then for us today, this morning, especially with an election coming up in a couple of months?
See, good morning, everyone. What we are expecting, though is nothing is specified for FMCG sector for anything, but the growth in agriculture sector and the technology is the promising to the boom for Indian economy. And the objective of Indian government, which is now presenting a blueprint for 100 years, is the growth in digitalization, urbanization, rural health, rural distribution, the change of life in the rural sector, plus infra development, promotional experiment. So what we are expecting this year, though 23-24 was not a very good year for us due to various reason, the commodity price was inflating like anything. Fuel is also giving a lot of surge in our profit and margin. But in last year, a lot of investment through PLI. So what we are expecting this year, the things will be changed. The growth in FMCG sector will be more than a expected average growth, which is normally 10%. This year, we are expecting around 20%. Lot of investment will come in FMCG sector. People will talk about health, safety, food, innovation, differentiation, and everything.
Okay.
So I'm also expecting that government will have some kind of control on commodity prices, because after election, till election, everything will be controlled. But the biggest challenge is that what will happen after election? After election.
Okay, so let me pick on that one by one with you, Pankaj.
Yeah.
Now you have a very direct consumer-facing business. Okay, so
Yeah.
now help us understand, for people watching the broadcast. Are you seeing, as many people suspect, a boom, that there is a consumer out there who's coming in, sees a value proposition, especially in the sector that you are in, which is in foods? Are you seeing more places opening? Are you expanding your footprint and profile within the country? Before I ask you about outside the country, sir.
Yeah, sure. Because we are in the sector the food, where every time everyone expects dil mange more differentiation, product differentiation, innovation, taste, promotions, and safe and healthy food.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely expecting a lot of investment will go in that. Lot of innovations will take place, so that people will have a different kind of food, which is a safe food, healthy snacking,
Okay,
because
but
it's
are you seeing
convenient
sales go
also.
up, sir? Are you looking
I'm expecting,
at opening, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
more storefronts?
I'm expecting this year a normal growth of around 20%, though global growth is around 10%, but in India, I'm expecting this business will go by 20% due to nuclear family, कहना चाहिए, people style, and people are going for outing and more. If you see a lot of modern trades or a lot of your food courts full, in कहना चाहिए, in malls and everywhere, all food courts are full. You'll always get waiting in that. So I'm expecting the food business and FMCG business will grow like anything. It's a very
Okay,
convenient.
what is the opportunity you're spotting at Bikaner Wala, sir, for expansion, if any, abroad? Is there now a market for Indian items, especially the kind of fast-moving items that you produce abroad? Are you seeing an
Our
opportunity abroad?
Yeah, देखिए, our mission is that every fifth Indian consumer should be a customer of Bikano or Bikaner Wala. Currently, we have more than 175 stores across India. Plus, we have 2,500 distributors under in retail and wholesale packs. We are expanding through manufacturing footprint. Also, we are putting more plants in rest of India. We are covering eastern India part, western India part, and southern India part, and Dubai, and in Nepal also, with our stores also, retail pack also, and the wholesale pack also. Because and so a lot of investment is also going on, because we are expecting a huge growth in next 5 years.
Okay, so you are expecting huge growth. So the economy, Pankaj ji, according to you, seems to be in a healthy straits. You people are out there, they're wanting to spend money, they want to go out, as you mentioned, for outings. Doesn't make a difference which city it is. So what is your judgment call from the growth that you are seeing in your sector, in your company, on the state of the economy?
You will surprise, right now the maximum growth is coming from rural sector, because earlier rural sector was totally untapped. Now from urban, the people are going rural, and they are taking advantage of as a first mover. as a first mover. But definitely, the food safety has become important, is playing a vital role there with the differentiation and taste differentiation also.
Okay,
That is
so
also very important.
where do we
Innovation is also very important.
where do we need intervention, sir? Is it cutting down logistics costs? Is it about taxation? Before I ask you about GST, where do you need the intervention where things will actually make it better for you as a company to run?
I tell you, the snacking has become now, it's a common food. Earlier, the biscuit industry and the bakery industry was the poor man food, but now the snacking also joined. We are offering the services food in 5 rupees and 10 bucks. So, and there's the GST is around 12%. 12%. I'm expecting a reduction in GST up to the sweet level, which is around 5%. And then the second thing is the logistic cost. Yes, this will not come from government side. This will come from our manufacturing footprint. Manufacturing footprint. We have to put small units after in the radius of 200 to 300 kilometers.
Okay. Quickly, sir, to wind this up, when it comes to what became initially the implementation of GST became a very complicated, complex affair. Have you seen an ease or easing of compliance costs, of getting refunds on time in filings, and of course, a direct bearing on making your life with a single GST regime across the country a bit easier?
I don't think now there is any issue in GST filing and GST and any other thing. I think government has come out with a lot of solutions, and I don't find any problem. Even in my organization, I'm not seen even a single issue in entire year as a CEO.
Okay, so the problem that was there 3-4 years ago is dissipated.
That is not there. That is
Okay,
not.
is dissipated.
That is not there.
All right, Pankaj Agarwal, thank you very much for joining us this
Thank you.
morning ahead of the budget expectations you're watching on your screens. Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, she's headed, it's no longer a briefcase and a file, it's of course a touchpad with which she's going to read the budget speech, as she has for 8 times before this. Let me quickly bring in Monica Malhotra joining us. She's Managing Director of the MBD Group. Monica, very good morning. If I'm not, can you help us understand what your group does?
Okay. Hi, good morning, all of you. We at MBD Group, we are servicing the education past nearly 70 years now. And
So is it mostly publishing then?
No, it is publishing, digital publishing, everything put together. And we are very aggressively working in blended learning also, solutions, ICT solutions, everything and anything a school wants in terms of products and services, MBD is providing them, right from the books to the textbooks to the workbooks to teacher training to ICT classrooms to blended solutions like LMS, ERP, and any solution which the school wants. So we are in
all
that
right.
sphere.
Okay. So, Monica ji, what is your touch point with the economy? Are you seeing a boom in the education industry where people are out there as new schools are starting, older schools are investing in upgradation, pupil numbers are up? Are you seeing a good situation, or are you seeing a troubling situation?
No, I don't see a troubling situation. Why? What happens is that whenever government is focusing on a particular sector, the sentiment altogether becomes very positive. So what we are seeing, like in the last fiscal year, the highest ever allocation to the education, the budget was given. So it clearly shows that government has laying a lot of emphasis on this sector. So they're trying to improve the infrastructure in schools by model schools. They're trying to. There are a lot of initiatives they've taken in terms of laying emphasis on libraries, on teacher training. They have initiatives like Smart Shiksha scheme. They have PM schools. They have PM Poshan. So a lot of initiatives have been announced and taken up. And the government is actually is laying focus. So that's why the sentiment is really good. And I think post-corona, it is not only books, the emphasis on the digital learning also has been great, because we have understood the importance more so post-corona that the blended learning is here to stay. So I feel that the sentiment is quite good in the market in terms of education. Plus, we have an ever-growing population.
Okay. All right. Quickly, on e-learning, saw boom time during COVID. We are seeing a bit of a bust right now. Okay. Maybe over expansion, over capacity was created. Where is that headed?
See, the thing is, during Corona, we had no other alternative other than going to the digital learning resources. But now, blended learning is here to stay, where the textbooks are also going to stay, and digital learning also. Depending, there are certain things which these solutions, which are edtech solutions, are providing us in terms of mapping the learning gaps and the outcomes, which they do much more efficiently if it
Okay.
is done manually. So a lot of other facets are there in terms which these platforms provide, which are endless. So which has to be used depending upon the teacher and the student in question.
Okay. All
So
right.
for the personalized learning part, this is a must-have that we have blended learning solutions in place.
Okay, all right, thanks. Just stay with us. Let me quickly get Mr. Suyash Gupta back into this conversation. Suyash, let's focus on the larger picture. Now, for people watching the broadcast, all of us are aware there's a general election coming up, okay? It's very touchy, dicey to go into the prediction of figuring out what happens in general elections, okay? You can guess, you can hope, you can wish, but what do we need? What do we need a stable economy? Do we need stability in government? Do we need continuity of thought regardless of which government is formed? How much of that stability have we taken for granted? Political stability, governance stability, and how much of that really affects the functioning of our economy?
But it impacts the whole sector tremendously. I'd like to compliment the CEO of Bikaner Rewala, Mr. Agarwal, mentioned that there are no GST issues now. So one thing is for sure, yes, it's the general expectation is that the present regime will get a third term. But at the same time, the systems which have now been built, the systemic changes which have been done, those many of those things, those things cannot be undone. If the GST regime is now stabilized, I remember there was a time when a part of the taxation regime was also the form system. So all the people who were doing all the business entities, if they were operating in a multi-state environment, and the amount of time at which was required at the borders, all that has been cut by almost 50%. And look at the growth in infrastructure, the highways. I recall when Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government went in 2003, we were at almost 18.5 kilometers of highways a day. And that literally dropped to 3 kilometers, less than 3 kilometers a day, but it's almost close to almost 40 kilometers a day now.
Yeah.
So the growth in infrastructure, the highways, in the US, they said the US is, the highways are not, because the US is doing well. The US does well because of the infrastructure and the highways.
Yeah, but the infrastructure ironically built in the 1930s by FDR, of course, which is struggling almost 100 years later. Okay, but in a practical sense, as a person operating in the country, when we say we are making it easier for entrepreneurs and business persons, okay, is that true? Is it easier in terms of compliance, in terms of regulation, in terms of the number of officers who can find problems with licensing and allowing what you do and what you build and how you operate? Is life easier today?
That is a very good question, and yes and no. From the larger perspective, yes, GST has made life so much easier. But at the same time, the compliance burden in terms of the Companies Act, the Companies Law for not just MSMEs, well, the larger organizations, I would say, the larger scale industries or the SMEs can afford it. But I have seen MSMEs really struggling with the compliance burden, particularly on the company law side. The amount of, so I would like to see a lot of easing. I am aware that the ministry is aware about these representations which have been made by various chambers. I'm a member of all the apex chambers, which include FICCI, CII, and PhD. And this is one of the things which we consistently highlight with the government about the ease of doing business. There are a lot of authorities and those things need to be really looked at. Industry and government engagement needs to increase, and I know that they are doing that. But the larger picture of inclusivity,
Okay.
you're talking about when Mr. Agarwal mentioned about the increase of consumption at the rural level. So that's something which is music to ears.
You're seeing if you step out of your house and the best way to judge India's economy is go to the shops, go to the bazaars, and is there a buzz? Are there people out there, eating, shopping? And if yes, the country is doing well. If no, the country is struggling because there's high inflation, people can't afford to come out, therefore, things are not selling as much. So, yeah, India is facing a boom. Now, let me pick up this thought then with Gautam Mukherjee. Gautam Mukherjee, have we taken now, because it's been a long time, it's been 10 years, and let's not kid ourselves, 10 years is a long time, okay? Have we taken the stability and continuity, good, bad and ugly, we can argue, okay? What was rightly done, what was wrongly done. But have we taken the political stability and continuity at the central level for granted now, given that we have an election coming up in 2 months?
Well, I think what has happened is through government efforts and societal receptivity, there is a shift in the voters' appreciation of what needs to be done. It is less ideological, it's far more aspirational. I think the sheer economic growth that this government has pushed via very high capex spending relative to context is evident to everybody, and they want this to continue. Is this going to go beyond the 5 years into the 10 years and so on? That remains to be seen. But with the kind of consolidation we saw between 2014 and 2019 and again 19 to 24, there is a palpable acceleration. And this is, unprecedented. We've never seen.
Okay, but Gautam Mukherjee, the headline numbers. Faster. So I know that we are operating now at a broader base level, right? So if you're operating at a broader base level, the percentage number is smaller, but the real number in GDP growth is larger. But we've seen higher GDP figures. We've seen GDP figures of 9.5%, 9.6%, and peak off at that before they started subsiding. GDP at 7%. Now I know we are still coming out of COVID, but everybody argues you should be here nearer the 10%. The Chinese certainly did it for 20, 30 years.
Well, various sectors are lagging, partly, like I said, because of ideology. I think real estate needs to be pushed much harder. Manufacturing needs to be pushed much harder. The agricultural sector and its modernization, again, so if you want the additional couple of percentage points, you're going to have to be more radical in terms of your approach and less softly on many sort of political sensitivities. Remember, we're coming from a deeply socialist mindset, which hasn't left us. And, there is so much talk. The big officials of yesteryear are forever talking about things that are very sort of buzzwords of socialism. And that isn't the way to go to 10%. But it can happen. This is the acceleration I'm talking about. And if this were to come about, and if the public were more accepting of it, then it will happen.
Okay, so we need to figure out the pain points. The job of government is to have a vision, come in where the private sector doesn't exist. So you need government to be coming in, incentivizing port projects. We had a long conversation on this yesterday. You need the semiconductor industry to be built in India. You need to completely revolutionize photovoltaics. If you want to build the solar parks, photovoltaic industry in India has to go up 10x, 20x before we're looking at the scale of the Chinese. Beyond that, you need the government to get out of the way. It's India that's going to do it, and the government needs to unleash India, be coach and captain, and get out of the way. So that's a large part of it. But I want to make a point here for people watching the broadcast. The reason I mentioned stability and taking it for granted, because you've had a government, whether you like it, agree it, disagree with it, but that's been running a clear agenda with the legislative mandate of a majority on their own for the first time in 30 years. The last time we had a single majority government, I was in class 5. All right. So are we taking that for granted? Because we don't know what a political system throws up. We can hope, we can guess. Okay. Some people will hope in one direction, some people will hope in the other direction. But a political system that we've taken for granted, how important is that in the functioning of an economy? And the second part, of course, is government getting out of the way. So let me quickly get Mr. Agrawal back into this conversation. Pankaj, what is your then single biggest pain point that you wish we had a magic wand and we could do away with?
And definitely, what you were talking about regarding stability of political government and the policies, because whatever policies government is throwing now, is developing now, that should, in implementation, that will take at least another 5 to 10 years. Let me give you one example. Recently, the PLI scheme has been launched in the part of Jewar, though government has announced all subsidy and everything, but at the same time, the government infrastructure was not ready. So our biggest pain point was number one is to meeting the expectation of the customer. Number one. Number two, increasing top line and bottom line to make happy to pay dividend to our profit shareholders. Boost export market also, because right now the export is giving good top line also and good bottom line also. The biggest agenda is healthy snacking, or you can say differentiation, innovation with the control cost, well as a value for customer also.
Okay, so of course, what a customer consumer trend is, where the markets are emerging, what they like to eat, don't like to eat, Agarwal ji and his company knows better. Government can't decide that. Okay, so that's for the private sector to figure out. That's about running a good business. But the question is that when it comes, especially in the food industry, when it comes to licensing, when it comes to inspection, when it comes to food safety, when it comes to logistics, okay, especially, and I'm mentioning logistics because in high value goods, okay, the percentage of the logistic cost is much lower. But in low value goods like food items, the percentage of the logistics cost is very high. If you're just buying rice and wheat, a large part of the price you're paying is getting to your door. Otherwise, it only costs 2-3 rupees a kilogram, but getting to your door and becomes a lot more expensive.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.